Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
Well, happy holidays and early Merry Christmas to you, Beastmode.
Thank you. You as well, Howie. I love your tree behind you. I know we talked about that last time, but it really fits.
It's a nice one. I am glad to be out of the business of having an English horseback riding person behind my head, which has nothing to do with my life. I want to get a vintage kayak and put it on the wall or something.
That would be.
But yeah, dude, it's really great to chat with you on this chilly winter evening.
Yes, it's great.
Although we're in Texas, so we can't complain because it's not like we're in Minnesota where it's actually cold.
Yeah, and I'm sitting by the fire. So I'm great.
You know what's funny about your fire is that it looks like a Zoom background. It looks like it's so pretty in the setting that you have. It actually looks fake.
No, it's super real.
That's actually real.
I'm at a restaurant.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have an interesting topic. So we talked about in our prep how people are going through a lot of hard times right now, not just because of the pandemic, but because of the holidays. There's a couple of dynamics that people go through, as we come up to the holidays, which is number one, people who have business goals for the calendar year, whether they're a business owner, whether they're in sales management, other types of roles, they have goals to hit. And Lord knows with the pandemic, they may not be hitting their goals. So there's a lot of challenges that people that are in business are dealing with. From a personal perspective, there's a lot of personal challenges also where people have a harder time during the holidays due to the personal things that happen or don't happen in life. A lot of personal reasons why the holidays are hard for people. So the topic that you came up with, which is great, is working through doubt. And I thought it was really good. So we have some pretty good prep here that I think we'll just talk back and forth. But where were you coming from on working through doubt? Maybe you've got a story or an example to kick us off, or however you'd like to start.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that I wanted to I didn't feel like we were done with kind of the planning for 2021, pushing, persevering through the remainder of 2020, ending. So I didn't really feel like we were done with that, but I didn't really know where we were going to go. And, as we were just taking a moment to reflect, that was the main thought, what is something that I struggle with, that I can be vulnerable with and share some good content on, and it's doubt. And I'm sure when you're listening to these podcasts, you don't think that about me, but it's daily. And that's probably my first example is almost every day, as a small business owner, as a founder, leader of a nonprofit, it's every day. There's the volume of things that could be done, should be done, I want to get done is massive. And the amount that I actually am able to attain and get done is very minimal, even through delegation, even through automation, and all these things that I'm trying to do. And, oftentimes I just feel like a failure. I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish today. I didn't succeed today. And that was where this conversation started from. And you had said that you felt the same way. Is that true?
Yeah, all the time. I do have this type of feeling all the time. And there's a bunch of symptoms that we can share with our listeners that can help them diagnose if they're experiencing doubt. That can be very paralyzing, to be honest. Yeah. I'm in a job search right now. Last night was a very dark night for me. You might recall maybe a week ago or so, I had an hour or so. Every couple of weeks or even every week, there might be a moment during a job search because it's essential it's really important that I get a job. And so that really wears on you, especially over several months now. It starts to wear on you. So yeah, working through doubt is something that I encounter, whether I have a job or whether I'm searching for a job like right now. But there's some symptoms that, we kind of talked through. One of them was, we're not getting enough done. So, at the end of the day, you said, you had 30 things on your list and you got one of them done. So that's one of the symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, and I am grateful for your comment that the commonness, of this feeling, that's refreshing, to be able to share and understand that you're not an idiot, so I want to put that out there for anybody who's feeling similarly. We feel the same way, and you're not an idiot. But yeah, I mean, and so what do you do with that? And I know that, oftentimes what I have to do is I have to circle back, I had 30 things on my list. I got 2 or 3 done. Now that it's 27, roll over to tomorrow. Now I already had 30 things on tomorrow's list. What did I fail today? And I just have to pause for a moment and reflect. Maybe those 2 or 3 things, maybe I didn't see the weightiness or the value of how important they were. And by getting them done, there was a lot of success in that, or I underestimated the value of other things, and so I have to come back and look at them. And so it's not a positive every day. Some days you look at it and you're like, man, these 2 or 3 things were so valuable. And if I didn't get these things done, then the rest of my week, month, year would be awful. And it's success. But some days you get those done and you go back and look and say, I should have reevaluated. I should have, after 45 minutes into this task, should have reevaluated and said, this is not a task. There's other things I could get done. And so it's through that, being able to capture that positive thought of being able to learn that lesson, then I'm moving into success for tomorrow. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I have a project right now that I'm working on, which is really important to me. Even though I'm out of work, I'm basically doing a documentation process. I'm building sort of like a sales development plan called Project Insight. And I've been working on it for a week and a half, and I'm so busy with job interviews and other stuff that it's becoming a pretty great document, to be honest, but it's not done yet. And so I also, even in this time, I should have a lot of free time. And even in this time, I find that, things that are very important aren't making the progress that they should or that I would expect. So I think there's other important things to think about when you're not getting enough done. One of the things, there's multiple ways there's multiple facets to every fact, right? So it's not a unilateral fact that you're just not getting enough done, and therefore, those self-doubts come in, right? Let's unpack some other truths about not getting enough done. Not getting enough done means that you have a sense of urgency. That's a good thing. Not getting enough done means that you have enough judgment to know that more needs to be done. Not getting enough done also means that you have a list and you have a set of priorities. And also not getting enough done means that you're accountable. And so, there's other things. That pressure that you feel is actually positive growth pressure. So working through doubt is our title today. And so one of the reasons that we can work through doubt is that we take our symptoms, like not getting enough done, we take that symptom seriously, but then we also look at it more multidimensionally than just the doubt itself. Because the doubt is there to be a symptom. It's not to be the end all be all truth of the matter, and it doesn't have the final word. So if we can capture the doubt, write it down, you and I use a prayer approach, and we journal and we pray and all that. People don't have to; they can also use a journaling approach. But you know what? Write that down. What's the situation? My concern is I'm not getting enough done. Okay, so let's write down everything we can think of about that. I just gave you 4 or 5 positives from that. What I have learned, Beastmode, now I'm telling you, what I have learned is that I set these lofty goals with multi-threaded lists and all this stuff. And it shows that I have a decent understanding of the business and of the path forward, which is a good news. But on the other hand, I have a high standard and I have impatience and I want to get it all done immediately. But when I keep going after it and I keep reassessing and I keep working through doubt, our title today, I actually look back And I see over, usually it's months, not weeks now, but I usually look back and I see some fairly chunky accomplishments. And then, like in my last company, a pretty big turnaround over a period of 2.5 years in terms of their sales. But in the moment, I was never satisfied. I had that same feeling that you're having almost every day. I was never satisfied with what I got done. And so I think you just want to look at this multidimensionally. You want to write this down and you want to persevere, because if you're not getting enough done, it's not that we want to stop. It's not an excuse or a reason to stop.
What's the next symptom?
Next symptom is, am I moving the needle and am I making a difference? So where were you coming from on that?
Yes. So on that one is, it pertains sometimes with my customer, to my clients. Am I making the difference for them that I know that I can? And so it goes back to, did I get enough done that day, that week, that month, that I made the difference that I wanted to make that month, that week, that duration of that agreement or whatever. And then some of that moving the needle goes back to the nonprofit. Am I moving the needle in the right direction? Am I making the difference that I know that it's possible to be made? And so some of this is just coming back and adjusting expectations, or what I'm hoping what I'm going to be learning in this process is being able to set proper expectations in advance. Because I know, there's that whole phrase, bite off more than you can chew. Well, I don't want to live a business career continually biting off more than I can chew. I want to get to the point where I'm biting manageable pieces and I'm able to have sustained growth, sustained success, or failures. But again, they're in sustained chunks and not consistently. I don't want to repeat a process daily, weekly, monthly, yearly.
Yep. I want to add to that. So, with your nonprofit, for example, feeding homeless people is great. Other, aspects are great, but you've made the decision that other people are doing sleeping bags, so we're not going to do that, right? Doesn't mean that we won't have an emergency where we might go do that like we did last weekend. That's fine. Or weekend before last, but that's more of a one-off versus a feeding program and a hygiene kit program is more of a daily thing. You recently had an idea about trash pickup along the way as well, kind of led by the fact that we have a new trailer. I say we because I do help Beastmode a little bit with that. He's 90%. He's 99% actually. I just help him a little bit. But trash pickup. If we commit to that, can we do everything else and commit to trash pickup? Right. So I think part of the process of, am I doing enough? Am I moving the needle? Am I making a difference? Part of that symptom of that question that we can use. The symptom is a pain point, right? Just like when you hurt your foot or whatever, that's a symptom of something that happened. It's not fake. It's a good question. But we can also use that symptom of, am I making enough of a difference, to sort of like flesh out things. And fleshing out means we can talk it out, think it out, and say, is that really core? And we can assess our to-do list, right? So we've got a list of 11 possible things that we can do, but we shouldn't probably commit to 11 things, right? We should probably commit to a smaller list that we can be better at. You know what I mean? And so I think it's not invalid to say that not getting enough done as a symptom, having the self-doubt of, am I moving the needle and making a difference? And there's kind of inherent in that question is, it's good that you're dissatisfied. It's good that you are intelligent enough to come up with such a great list. And it's good that you care, but we can't do everything. So some of those things we need to flesh out and we need to at least put a pin in them for later, if not just not doing, you know what I mean? And so, the good news is though, that you're intelligent, you're capable, and I mean you or the listener or me, the fact that you have that dissatisfaction is actually a positive, to be honest. So the next one is living reactively versus proactively. And I wrote that one down, so I'll start off. and then I'll flip it to you. One of the things that you mentioned to me, you were giving me some symptoms before the call, and you said something about I was very, very busy, but I didn't accomplish my list. And so here's what I learned in my last company, because I had that same feeling, and I still do sometimes, but something helped me with that a lot, which is that living react or working proactively in our companies or in our nonprofits or whatever, that reactive stuff is part of life, and we need to allow for that. And it actually is part of the transformation, because when you take people like us who have some ability, who have some experience, and have some intelligence, a certain amount of ability, whatever you want to say about us or our listeners, that reactive stuff is really important to run the business. And thoughtfully addressing the reactive matters that come up is important. And it can also, we learn from those things. And if enough reactive things come up, sometimes we can see a pattern that we can then either capitalize on because it's a good reactive, or we can see a pattern of enough of those reactive things that pop up that are bad that we can permanently address and fix for the reactive thing that's happening. But I'm telling you right now, a lot of this stuff that I look back in my last company, which is quite a turnaround story, a lot of it was just me responding reactively in the highest quality manner that I could in the day. And so, yeah, I can't really record, at the end of the day that I necessarily touched my list or I got like half of one item done or something. But looking back, all that transformation happened was by executing in a quality manner against the reactive things that the customer or my team member or my manager needed, or that I just observed that was in pain, putting out a fire. And all those things were part of the transformation. It's not just the stuff that you write down that matters. It's also the stuff that you attack as it pops up reactively.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to just move on. So we're going to just drop the mic on that one, guys, if you want. And then we talked, and then I'm going to flip it to you, but we talked about, using the intelligence, using the pain. We talk about pain a lot in this podcast, but using the pain of those symptoms of that doubt, and, governing our thoughts a little bit. On the one hand, I want to listen to that a little bit, right? I want to receive that doubtful thought a little bit, just so I can find the seed of truth in that and see what I need to do about that situation. But also there's a sense that, we want to document that, and we want to, if you are a person of faith, pray about it. If you're not, document that and really think about that. But also we want to sort of like take our thoughts captive. So talk a little bit about that process in your own life and in your advice.
Yeah, your analogy that you gave was so simple, but yet it just really struck me that, if your foot hurts, it's not something to just persevere through. Sometimes it is, sometimes, you just got to deal with it. But sometimes, persistent pain or persistent struggled areas are areas that need to be addressed. And so again, just to use the analogy is, if you have a pain or you have something that's symptomatic, you go see a physician, you go seek wise counsel. And so, that same thing applies in business, So again, having a conversation with Howie and saying, hey, this is how I feel. I'm seeking wise counsel on this pain, explaining, giving symptoms, giving where it comes from, thoughts and background and history, just like you would at a physician's office, and allow that truth to come in. Because Howie could say, hey, man, this is something everybody goes through. I think you're doing really well. And I think you're being too hard on yourself, or I think you're putting too much on your plate, and I think, but otherwise you're doing great. But he could come back and he could say, hey, you're missing the mark here, which is exactly, it's still positive. If you go to the physician and you're, I got a hurt foot, this, that, and the other, and instead of just keep walking on it, you go in and he says, you know what, hey, you got a broken foot. Look, let's put a boot on it. In 3 weeks, you're going to be just fine. The outcome of putting a boot on it is still positive, even though you had a negative information of a broken foot. you know, and so you're still moving towards success. And so that, and I know that's part of the next point, and I kind of covered all three of the next points, which is
So good.
persevering and
Yeah,
seeking
planning,
partnerships.
persevering, and partnering.
Yeah, and so again, planning, saying, hey, you know, I got this going on. I've been doing it in advance, but maybe I'm trying to persevere, and I'm getting to the point where perseverance isn't working. I'm still accumulating. Okay, well then go find somebody that you can receive wise counsel from, whether it's positive or negative. So,
preach. Yeah, I want to make a comment that you stirred up in me. So thank you. Which is, don't make a long-term decision based on the circumstances that you're presently walking through, and don't make a macro assessment of your capabilities and your worth based on the situation that you're going through right now.
yeah. So, yes. Please, 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 everybody hear that again. You know, please hear that. Rewind it, 15 seconds, and listen to it again. Because
Yeah.
we all
do that.
Yes.
And those, you know, there's a psychological factor. You guys can Google this. It's called automatic negative thoughts. It's very, very common. You know, automatic negative thoughts are literally, they can be words or impressions that are negative against you in your mind and your thoughts. Listen, some of those have some validity. You know, there might be a root of truth in that, or a seed of truth in that, you know, but it doesn't mean that you're worthless. And sometimes they will, those automatic negative thoughts will really, really amplify, and they'll make these macro statements about your life and your destiny. And it's always going to be this way. That's a load of crap. When I'm in the desert, actually, I posted today on LinkedIn about this. When you're in the desert, yeah, it's very hot. It is. You're thirsty. You're lacking water. You just passed a rattlesnake, which is very scary. You just, you know, you bumped into a cactus and you poked yourself. You know, it's a very harsh terrain. That's great. But you know what? You're walking through the terrain. And if we stop and we consider, like, you know, you don't stop in the middle of a desert and say, you know, I'm going to die here, or I'm a cactus, you know, I'm a fixture. I'm whatever it may be. You know, you don't give in to a rattlesnake just because you pass through them, right? So we shouldn't, in our life circumstances or in our business circumstances, you know, take that situation that we're going through and accept it as permanent, right? That's part of what Beastmode is saying with planning and persevering and partnering, right? Him and I sharing burdens, him and I partnering up in that way. Partnering can also be delegation, right? There can be opportunities for example, so Beastmode is running a business and a nonprofit, both a startup, right? He's trying to do a good job partnering. Last weekend, he had a volunteer drive, quite a decent turnaround, 2 sessions, nice turnaround, or turnout, that is. And so there's an opportunity to partner and to delegate. Persevering means walking through the desert, not stopping in the desert. Planning, right? So I think the planning aspect for me, Beastmode, comes into, you know, doing a little bit of list validation, right? Have your list, have your strategic plan, but you know what? It's okay to revisit that a little bit and say, you know what? These 2 items are not necessarily core within our goal, or this is a really good one I want to kind of keep in the back burner, but I can afford to wait on that, or whatever it may be. So I think that's how the planning aspect comes in. The last thing that I think that we'll cover before we wrap is, you know, you just said discover the truth. So can you start? I didn't know where you were going with that. So can you start off, and then I'll hop in if I have any thoughts.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of the way that I work through the doubt. Is yes, I'm going to go through all these steps. I'm going to look at the symptoms. I'm going to plan, persevere, and seek partnership. But eventually, you got to come to the point of, because it started out is the doubt is, am I a failure? Am I being successful in business? And not talking about financial resources, but am I succeeding in what I'm doing? Or is this something I should cut off or prune or whatever? And so again, you got to go seek the truth. And sometimes it's going back, and you go to so for me in business, I can go to my clients. Are you happy with what we've been doing? Are you happy currently? Yes. Well, wonderful. Then I'm successful in that relationship with my customer. You know, if they're not happy, well then, okay, then now it gives me an opportunity to know, here's what's top of mind for them. That's what I need to address. They now fix my planning so that I can persevere better. And I just accomplish partnership, what you talked about. But some of it is faith-based, where it doesn't involve anybody else. There's nobody I can go see to on this particular topic, and I got to go to what I know to go to, which settles me down. Some people it's yoga, some people it's going out and taking a run. For me, it's getting into scripture and finding out who God says that I am. And when I go just seek that in the Word, and I just get some truth revealed to me. Or maybe it's talking to Howie and letting him speak that truth over me. It says, hey man, I was reading a devotional, I was reading in the scriptures, and this is what I think a word is for you. And so, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's good. No, I don't have anything to add to that. So I think, wrap up comments on working through doubt. We're going to have those seasons. We're going to have those times. Analyze your self-talk. Don't, make sure your talk track in your head. You pay enough attention to it that you can learn from it and you can pull the truth out of that. But don't let it amplify and say who you are or where you're going to go or that things are always going to be that way. Feel free to hit us up. We forgot to, we were supposed to set up a show email. We're going to do that. So you can hit us up with questions and comments. But so Beastmode, thanks for chatting and helping the guys really work through doubt in their business and personal life.
Thank you, Howie. This conversation has really, really hit home for me. I hope it hits home for you. We look forward to continuing this conversation with you guys soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot.
See you.